At first, it bothered me that I came to running too late to ever know how fast I could have been back then if I'd have tried. In fact, it kind of felt the same way as when I lost 80 pounds and then was like, oh my God, you mean I could have done this years ago? I am such a moron. I hate myself. I want to die. But if you don't know by now, regret is an emotion that you need to totally skip out on. I'm Jessica, and I used to live on Easy Street. I had nice things, and I ate and drank whatever I wanted. But the truth was, I lived paycheck to paycheck at a job I hated. Eating and drinking whatever I wanted made me fat and miserable. I had constant heartburn and hangovers, and I was drowning in debt. Today, I'm fit and happy, and I want the same thing for you. Join me each week, and let's commit to doing something hard together. Because it turns out that Easy Street is a dead end. The only way to become your best self is to take the path of most resistance. Welcome back to the Path of Most Resistance, where each week we tackle a 7-day challenge on the never-ending journey to becoming our best selves. How's your week been going? For those of you just joining us, last week's challenge was to take a deep breath, meaning to do breathwork exercises each day for at least 10 minutes, or, if you were new to doing breathwork, to start wherever you could, even if that was for only 2 minutes instead. Doing that daily will get you the base point. Going for 30 minutes or longer will get you bonus points. It's not too late to score points. The challenge doesn't end until Sunday night. Speaking of scoring points, you may notice when you receive your score sheet this week that it looks different. Actually, if you've been a subscriber from the beginning, you know that it looks different just about every week. That's because I love and practice the idea of starting before you're ready. Or, phrased a different way, imperfect action is better than no action at all. Ladies and gentlemen, the secret sauce to making anything happen is to make it happen. Not dreaming about it happening, not hoping that it'll happen all by itself one day, but making it happen. You got to start before you're ready. I want to read you something from Steven Pressfield's The War of Art, a book that I cannot recommend enough. It's a very short read, but it's full of powerful wisdom that will help you conquer the beast that all of us must learn to slay. Procrastination, or, as he calls it, resistance. Okay, so here's what he says. The most pernicious aspect of procrastination is that it can become a habit. We don't just put off our lives today, we put them off till our deathbed. Never forget, this very moment, we can change our lives. There never was a moment, and never will be, when we are without the power to alter our destiny. This second, we can turn the tables on resistance. This second, we can sit down and do our work. Start before you're ready. When I started this podcast, I had a basic idea what I wanted to do with it, but it definitely wasn't a fully fleshed out vision. But I set a date for the first podcast to air, and I made that shit happen, ready or not. And that's why every week there's something slightly different about the podcast. You may not notice some of the changes because some of them happen in the background, but I'm trying to take a cue from James Clear. In Atomic Habits, he says, if you master continuous improvement and get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. So each week, I try to improve one thing about the podcast. And this week, I've been rethinking the scoring system. While I initially liked the idea of earning base points and bonus points for each of the 7 days of the challenge, it doesn't always work like I want it to. There are some challenges I want to tackle that don't involve daily actions. I mean, what if I did a challenge where you only had to do one thing, but it was like a really big thing and you needed the whole week to get it done? Or maybe the challenge doesn't take all week to complete. Maybe it's some type of community service challenge and you have to find an event in your community to participate in. I mean, most people don't have time to do volunteer work every single day. So yeah, I'm going to change the challenge to a different format. No more daily base points or bonus points. Instead, each week, you'll have the opportunity to earn up to 20 points by completing various tasks. I did consider keeping a leaderboard so that there could be a winner every week, and then maybe I'd give out a prize, but I decided against it. Sorry for your luck, no prizes here. There is no Easy Street. Don't be mad. It's because I don't want you to do these challenges because you're motivated by an external prize. I want you to do them because you really have a desire to become a better version of yourself. Another reason I don't want a leaderboard is that I don't want you to compete against anyone else. Here's a pro tip from $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan. Don't base your happiness or your self-worth on being the smartest, the most successful, the richest. Being so focused on the end results sets you up for a major fall because there's always going to be someone who's smarter, more successful, or richer. And every time you see that you've fallen short, it will eat away at your motivation. Simply put, the only person you should ever compete against is yourself from yesterday. I used to be extremely competitive. I always needed to win everything. No, not me. Believe it or not, though, my opinion changed when I started running or racing. I mean, you would think the point of a race is to try and win it, right? But here's the thing. I didn't start running until a couple of years ago. All of my opportunities for world land speed records are years behind me. At first, it bothered me that I came to running too late to ever know how fast I could have been back then if I'd have tried. In fact, it kind of felt the same way as when I lost 80 pounds and then was like, oh my God, you mean I could have done this years ago? I am such a moron. I hate myself. I want to die. But if you don't know by now, regret is an emotion that you need to totally skip out on. I'm paraphrasing Eckhart Tolle here, but if you feel guilt and regret, you're living in the past. If you feel anxiety and worry, you're living in the future. But the past and the future, they only exist in our minds. They're not real at all. They're just memories or projections. There is no past or future. There is only now. Instead of feeling regret about the world record what ifs I could have had, instead, I'm grateful that I can run now. And when I run a race, a lot of my competition has been running for their entire lives. So of course they're probably going to beat me. They've been practicing much longer than I have. But that's okay. My only real competition is myself. Long story short, that's why there won't be a leaderboard. It doesn't matter how you stack up against everyone else playing this game. It only matters that you are attempting to do something outside of your comfort zone. Instead, I'm going to give you a list of tasks around the challenge, and it's up to you to choose which ones you want to tackle each week. Before I tell you what those are, let me recap how the challenges work in case this is your first time playing. The challenges start the Monday after they're announced and run for 7 days. Remember, you can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, but to get the weekly score sheets, you have to sign up as a subscriber to the Path of Most Resistance on Substack. It's completely free. Though, if you upgrade to a paid subscription, you'll also get access to the community chat and the challenge check-in calls on Zoom. Got it? Okay, so here's the deal with the new point system. If you attempt the challenge once during the week, you'll get 3 points. So next week, during the Pack a Lunch challenge, if you pack a lunch instead of buying it just once during the week, that counts. Now, I'm going to let your conscience be your guide here. After all, this is a podcast about becoming your best self, and your best self does not lie to itself. So, if you normally pack a lunch once a week, then maybe you don't deserve points for doing what you normally do anyway. Instead, challenge yourself to pack a lunch 3 times that week. It's totally your call what level of the challenge you should attempt, but always, always push yourself. So, 3 points for attempting the challenge at least once, at whatever level of hard is uncomfortable for you. Now, if you already pack your lunch every day, go ahead and give yourself 3 points. Good job, you rock. Instead, you could try to complete some of the other tasks on the list and get some points. And these tasks will be the same every week, which makes it really easy. First, each week, I'll recommend a book that has something to do with that week's challenge. If you read the book, you'll earn 6 points. Again, I trust you to score yourself honestly. If it's impossible for you to read a book in an entire week, but reading 1 chapter is within your reach, then do that. And let me say something about reading while we're here. On average, I read 70 books a year. I realize that I am a huge anomaly, and most people don't read at all. If you are, most people, then I definitely encourage you to try for the 6 points every single week. I think reading is like any other skill, and most people don't do it, not because they're not interested in learning things, but because they're weak at reading. Remember what I said last week about trying something 100 times? Of course, you're going to suck at reading if you never practice. So practice. Get better at it. And I don't even care if you get better at it by reading trashy romance novels or sci-fi space adventures, because even fiction will have words that you don't know. This is one of my favorite reasons for reading on a Kindle. When I find a word I don't know, I used to have to go find a dictionary, and who wants to bother with that? Now, though, I can just touch the word and the definition pops up. That is a useful feature. Hey, it's not just me. Most of the richest people in the world got that way because they make time to read, to learn, to continue gaining knowledge. I'm not saying if you read, you'll get rich, but if you get rich, you probably read. Obviously, this doesn't include people who got rich by modeling or singing or playing football or any other physical activity. Not all of us are born with bodies that can do extraordinary things. The rest of us got to do everything the hard way. Obstacles make us stronger, though, and a dread of reading is a huge obstacle. There is nothing but unlimited opportunity on the other side of it, though. So each week, I'm going to encourage you to go read a damn book. All right, I've digressed. There are a few other ways to earn points, and here's my favorite one. I don't know about that. I think maybe reading is my favorite one. There are a few other ways to earn points, and here's a good one. You can earn up to 5 additional points each week by repeating a previous challenge. You'll get 1 point each week if you do something that we've already covered. So, whether it's keeping a journal, resisting cookies, or going for a walk, if we did it as a challenge once, you can repeat it once each week for an extra point. Because what good was it to do that hard thing just once? If you keep doing them, you might even create a habit, and then there'll be no stopping you. If you're not sure what we've covered before, you can go to the page on Substack and look at the list of episodes to see what's available, and there's a link in the show notes for that. Okay, the last 2 ways to earn points are 1, tag yourself on Instagram doing a challenge activity and use the hashtag TPOMR for the path of most resistance. 2 points for that. And finally, you can earn 4 points if you report your results to me. I'd really like your feedback on the challenges so I can continue to make them better for you. And this will be an easy way to earn some points. It's a win-win for both of us. Those are the changes you'll see on the score sheet this week. I wish I had thought of this earlier because last week's challenge was an especially difficult one. I asked you to sign up for a free 4-week course on learning. I wanted to share it with you because I found it to be a very useful course when I took it. But let me ask you, if you did do the first module last week, did you continue on with the course this week, even though the challenge is over? Probably not. And it's okay. I'm not offended. If the teacher only assigns me to read chapter 1, I'm not going to read all 10 chapters. I want to read chapter 1. Most of us are wired that way. But there are hard things we need to do that don't fit into a tidy 7-day window. And that leads us to the second change that's coming to the podcast. Next week's episode airs at the beginning of the month, which seems serendipitous because beginning next Friday, we'll not only do a 7-day challenge, but there's also going to be a monthly challenge. I'm excited for the opportunity to do even more hard stuff. Really, I am, and I know you are too. I'll tell you all about it next Friday, but there is still one challenge between now and then, so let's talk about next week's challenge. Starting Monday, we're going to focus on lunch. Now, you may be like me and not even eat lunch. That's okay. Remember what I said earlier, it's up to you to determine exactly how you will approach this challenge. I mentioned that I was an anomaly when it comes to reading. I know that Nob and I are also anomalies when it comes to eating, at least in the United States anyway. Can't speak for other cultures. Instead of eating lunch, though, we typically have small snacks throughout the day and then have a big meal around 4. I'm going to base this challenge around our daily meal because whether I call it lunch or dinner, it's the meal that I sometimes don't feel like preparing, and I eat out instead. So my challenge next week will be to eat a home-cooked meal every day. Your challenge may be different, but if you complete it, you get 3 points. Here's a tip so that you can be successful at this challenge. Before it begins, do some meal planning. This is the reason that I drop the podcast on Fridays, but the challenge doesn't start until Monday. So you can have time to get your head in the game and be prepared to kill it on Monday. This weekend, take a few minutes and come up with a plan on how you're going to pull it off. Maybe go shopping this weekend and spend an hour or 2 on Sunday making all of your lunches ahead of time. The book I'm offering for an extra 6 points this week is called Bright Line Eating by Susan Peirce Thompson. This book was eye-opening for me about the roles of processed sugar and flour in our lives, and I think it will be for you too. And even if you find the topic boring, you'll still get practice at becoming a better reader, so do it anyway! That'll do it for this week. If you're already a subscriber, look for next week's score sheet in your inbox later today. If you're not a subscriber, sign up for free on Substack to receive it before the challenge begins on Monday. Link in the show notes. Thanks for joining me as always, and until next week, you can do it. I believe in you. Peace. The challenges and score sheets are always free, but if you want to get more out of it, you can join the Path of Most Resistance as a paid subscriber on Substack. This option will get you access to the community chat, along with a link to the weekly challenge check-in calls. Want to push yourself even harder? I also do one-on-one coaching. Click the link in the show notes to book your free discovery call with me. Thanks for listening, and if you're enjoying the show, Please share it with anyone else you think is up for a challenge.